Hello everybody and welcome to another installment. I am Tess and this is Dark Stitches. Today we're going to make an apron. It's a real simple, easy thing to make, a nice starter project, and I happen to have to make one for my brother. He's got plenty of this fabric here. So what we're going to do first, I want to line it with itself. I'll fold this in half. You always want to make sure it's straight and lined up. Okay, now I have two pieces the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over so that when I cut my image out, both sides are going to be right side up. Because this pattern is directional. I'm not going to use a pattern. We're just going to measure on ourselves and see what would fit best. This is for my younger brother, but he's much taller than me. I'm going to go about 14 across the top. 8 inches down. Alright, so I'm going to measure off 7.5 inches here because we need 14 inches across, and then I'm going to have the seam allowance because I'm sewing these two pieces together. Okay, and now down to the armpit it's going to be 8 inches, but I'm not going to measure 8 inches from the very top. I'm going to measure 12 so I could turn this over. Now let's go 10. Let's do 10. I'm going to do 10 inches so we can turn this over. Alright, so I've made my mark. Let's get the big boy out. I'm going to angle this down a little bit. So this fabric is going to be 42 inches wide. We don't want him to wear it like a dress. He just needs to cover his front. I just decided we're just going to curve that edge at the bottom. Alright, so we definitely want to give him some pockets. And these negative space pieces that we just cut out are perfect size. I'm going to trim off the selvage edges. That's going to be a big pocket, so we're going to trim it down. So we're going to sew these two layers together first, and then we'll come back and pin the pockets in place. Okay. Now, I've got my pockets here. I've taken one already and put it right sides together and sewn all the way around it. We're going to run this other one together real quick. I'm going to show you how we did it. Got two sides of a pocket. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I want to turn this right side out and have a good side on both sides and a nice clean edge around it. And because it's double layer now, it's going to be a much sturdier pocket. So what I'm going to do is start slightly off center at the top here. Lock my seam into place and sew around, leaving a nice seam allowance. Making pivots at my corners too. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to trim these corners so that when we fold it right side out, everything lays down wonderfully. I made these curves here, so we're going to snippy snip snip and make that fall down nicely too. The idea here is to trim it, but don't cut the seam. Just trim it close to the seam, because whenever you turn it right side out, these are going to mash together, and cutting that excess fabric off allows it to lay down flat, and you get less bulk. Same principle with this one. When it's turned, this curve is going to be opposite. So it's going to come in on itself, so this way it can fold over and lay flat and not so bulky. Alright, so when you turn this right side out, what you're going to want to do after this is go press it. See? Now we have a nice pocket. So what I'm going to do is stitch around the edges of this. Ta! Nice little pocket. But next, I've got the apron all pinned together, right sides together. I'm going to start at the top again, just off center, because I'm going to leave an opening in this one too. Okay, so we've got it all sewn together. We're going to do the same thing to the corners as we did on the other one. Clips and snips, clips and snips. Let's turn it right side out. All right. We'll go give this a quick press. Okay, everybody, here we are back with our apron. I've made a few changes since I'd sewed the base together. I decided to change up the pockets. He didn't want them at the top. He wanted these beer holders at the top. So I've taken this elastic and I measured 6-inch strips, but pinned them 3 inches apart. So I'm going to sew down all right here where I have it pinned. And then I took my pockets and they kind of disappeared on the fabric. So I lined them. I edged them out with some bias tape and I placed them here. We had 2 pockets. I cut one in half and made it shorter. So we're going to sew these down and make like 3 pockets per each one of these, and this is going to be one big giant pocket. So I've got these pinned down. We'll pin these pockets down, and then we're going to get it to the machine and sew it all together. We also need to make some straps for it, and then we're done. Okay, so now that we've got this all pinned up, we're going to take it to the machine. Okay, now that we've got all of our pockets and our straps, our beer holders put on the apron, we need some straps. And I'm going to do it in a black fabric. This is a heavy canvas fabric. I'm just going to use the width of my T-square here. And I'm going to mark it in. I'm going to cut these strips out and sew them down. And then add them to the apron. Okay, so now we're going to take these, fold it over, fold the edges in, and then sew it down in 4s like that, like a bias tape. And we've got plenty enough to do straps around the side and a strap around the neck. Okay, we've got our apron. I got my black thread on my machine. I'm going to start where I have all these pins here. I'm going to start up here. Okay, now we're going to go to the pockets. Okay, now when I'm sewing these pockets on here, I am stitching just slightly past the pocket line where it starts. That's going to help keep it down and keep it from pulling away and ripping apart. And I'm also going over it twice, so I'm double tapping it. So you see me picking up my presser foot and turning all the fabric while the needle is down. It's called pivoting. It helps keep your place while you're sewing. And it keeps that nice continuous line. We're going to go right back over this same line and make sure this pocket stays and make sure it's stitched down nicely around all edges. Alright, now on to the last pocket. Okay, pocket sewn twice is twice as nice. Now we're going to get these. Alright, now let's make our straps. Okay, you see me cut out the black strips of fabric. Now what we're going to do is fold it over and just finger press it down the whole way. These came out nice. They're narrow enough to make a nice tie and not be too bulky, but wide enough to be strong. I'm just finger pressing and eyeballing it together. This canvas finger presses really well. I'm going to do the second one, and then we're going to sew down the other side. Now we got our straps. I've got two separate straps here. What we need to do is cut these in half. You just fold it and cut. Alright, now, since these have the selvage edge and they're not going to ravel, these are going to be the ends, and these ends that we just cut are going to be the ends that we sew to the apron. And where we place them is pretty obvious, so I don't have to take it to the table and pin it. We're going to do two at the top. I've sewn a square. Now what I'm going to do is come back over the square and sew a little X over the square. Alright, now that strap's not going anywhere. So the other side, make sure we put the cut side down. So now we've got these straps on. All he has to do is tie it to wherever he likes it to set, and it can be adjustable. Now we're going to put the straps on the side. Cut edge. Placing it on the back. And we're going to do the same thing, square with an X. All right. Ta! All right, we didn't have any beer in the shop, so I got it locked and loaded with some Diet Dr. Peppers. But there's our apron. Got our little side pockets. Okay, and that concludes our apron video for today. You don't have to do the same pockets that we did. You can change it around, put them where they're more convenient for you. You don't have to make the straps coming across the front as wide as a can. You can make it as wide as your cooking utensils and store those in there. But all in all, that's just your base, how to make an apron. They're simple, not too many pieces, and it's a nice starter project for someone who's just learning how to sew. So until next time, I can't wait to share more with you. Give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, keep up with us. We'd love to share more with you, and we can't wait to see you again.